don't see my presentation yet. There it is. There it is. Okay, great. So next slide, please. Yeah. So first, a few sentences about the company I'm having and myself. My name is Steffen. I'm a founder and CTO of Atlas Intelligence. We're focusing on testing infrastructures, breaking into infrastructures, and then telling the companies we're testing what they need to do in order to not being hacked by the real life hackers. So our company completely focuses on the real life threats, to say it like that. And yeah, that's how we dive in. So next slide, please. The topic of mine is, as you already heard, cloud versus on-prem. Since we're only having 15 minutes, I can only give you some thoughts and impressions that I have regarding this term. At first, we will focus on the threats and a little bit on the problems we're having with both cloud and on-prem, and then I will make a little comparison, and then we'll have a short conclusion. But this is a huge topic, and if you have further questions regarding this 15-minute quick briefing, please feel free to reach out to me after the presentation. So next slide, please. This is, if you ask me, the most important slide. It's a statistic from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and it shows the categories of attacks that were being used from the years 2011 until 2020. And every color represents another category of attack types that were being used. And without further reading of what's on the right hand side, you will see, if you look straight on this slide, you will see there's no colors changing really much. So it's not that we're having in 2020 a lot of other colors or a lot of other categories we did not have the last years. And you see that a lot of issues, a lot of categories spread over the years and are at the same amount being used. So this shows us that the problems that we're facing, either in on-prem or in cloud, are the same attack vectors we need to protect from since years. So there's nothing special. It's not rocket science that the attackers are doing here. We know what they are doing. For example, if you take the first one on the right hand side, which says hard-coded credential, even in the years 2020, we still have programmers programming hard-coded credentials there. The third one says buffer overflows. Buffer overflows is a classical hack, exploit hack we all know from the early 90s. We still have it present in 2020. We still have SQL injection present, and we have those SQL injection present like we had them in 2012 present. So same is for cross-site scripting, improper input validation, and the last one, improper role management, which means nothing less than ransomware is currently using improper role management. Means there is access where no access should be, and this is something that especially ransomware is targeting. But it's not that ransomware is a kind of fancy rocket science that someone invented. It's just that ransomware uses this vulnerability category we had all the years. So what I want to say with that is we do not have to change techniques here. We need to change how we face the attacks. Next slide, please. And on the other hand side, we will see, I call it the bodies in the basement. We've tested hundreds of companies, and there's always the same we find there. For example, missing firewall network segmentation. If you ask me, this is the most important point when it comes to preventing attacks or preventing the spread of attacks. If a company gets hacked and the hacker is in his cage and he cannot escape to other segments of the network, this is the best thing to prevent the attacks. And this is something we see that cloud is doing very good. because we have certain defaults here, but I come to that one later on. We're also missing holistic patch management. I call it holistic patch management because if you ask people, are you doing patch management? They always say yes, and what they mean is they are patching their Windows and Linux machines, but you have routers, you have printers, you have switches and all that stuff. And we see it very seldom that their companies are really adopting a holistic approach to patch management and focusing on all devices they are having. This is also something that cloud has an advantage to, but it won't get us rid of this problem because it's a process rather than a technique. The same is for misunderstanding of encrypted communication. I see it a lot that especially when it comes to compliance questions, companies hurry and start to encrypt all communication internally into TLS communication. But we then see TLS communication, but a lot of them are self-signed certificates, or the certificates are not created against the internal CA. And this makes it completely useless. You can just leave the encryption there because an intruder can simply intercept the connection. If the certificate is not valid, no one will notice. So there's a misunderstanding of why do we use this TLS encryptions. It's not that every TLS encryption is fine. It's only the ones that are valid against the right CA. The same is for the improper lifecycle management of infrastructures. We see it on access roles and the firewall rules. What I mean there is, especially with firewall rules, you see it that certain developers and departments of a company are requesting the IT guys to do some firewall rules. They do firewall opening rules, but there is no rule to make firewall closing rules. So in the end, you have, after certain years, you have a completely open firewall, which has been opened by themselves during the requests, but no one validated are the rules still needed. The same is for inconsequent quality assurance standards. That's why we still face SQL injections and simple quite simple things over the years when it comes to programming. Next slide, please. What we see here is just point out 3 examples for the things I noted above. The first you see is the not secure sign. Like I said, we all need internally TLS encryption, but no one cares if the certificate or it's not that important to care if the certificate is really valid or not. It's a huge problem. On the downside, you see, I just Googled the word ransomware to point out to you, because we hear it all the time during our tests. People really think antivirus or endpoint protection solutions are a very big a very big competitor when it comes to cybersecurity attacks, but they are the last barrier, and in most cases they won't work because it's very simple to trick out an antivirus program and let the victim execute the virus you created. It's called antivirus evasion techniques. You can simply Google that one. And if we would not have the problem with such programs, it would not be able to Google the word ransomware and have 35 million results if there would be a real solution from the antivirus providers. It's not that I say that you don't need an antivirus program. It's just it's only one small amount in your protection chain. And what we see on the right hand side, unfortunately, we're running out of time. It's a video where a Russian hacker group draws a hole into an ATM, and there you see a computer with USB ports. I can show it later if you point out to me in the chat. You see a computer there with USB ports, and they simply put a USB key in the port, and then you see the taskbar of Windows XP popping up. And what I want to say with that video or tell you with that is, someone thought, oh, it might be a good idea to put our not patched system, which is actually, unfortunately, on all ATMs, Windows XP, into a cage, and then we're safe. But then someone stupid comes and draws a hole into the ATM, and of course he can hack it immediately without any barriers because it's a Windows XP. So patch management needs to be done in every case, even though you think you caged your system physically. Next slide, please. So just some thoughts on advantages and disadvantages regarding the or gains and pitfalls regarding the cloud versus on-prem. Of course, we have huge plus points. We have less human issues when it comes to the cloud migration. We have less human issues through security by design. This is something that cannot be pointed out importantly enough, because the simple security issues you face in on-prem, we do not see at least the simple ones in cloud, because cloud has certain GUIs and infrastructures, designs and defaults that forces people to not make the simple issues again, which is very good. We see a lot of integrated security management services that can be used with the cloud, and they integrate and they work quite well because they are already integrated natively. So you don't need to buy your a lot of on-prem software and need to point it out to your environment, and in the end it doesn't work that well. So we see that there are very good integrated management tools, so that keeps that points more awareness to people when it comes to cloud. So in on-prem infrastructures, they can ignore information security if the administration want to, but in cloud it's not that easily possible, because you have those management services and GUIs that are pointing out, okay, you have a lag here. Cloud forces the growth of zero trust concepts, since cloud is not, or most clouds are not protected infrastructures in itself, but rather than services that be accessed from any place. We see a growth in the mindset of people that forces zero trust solutions to be developed more and more, which is very good. And if you make it on a general scale in terms of information security. And we have the native denial of service mitigation services integrated, which is also very good. Not for every company, but for some that are facing issues with that. On the other hand side, we see problems there. We see interoperability with third-party security applications. I see a problem here in the market that the security market will get less diverse, because cloud we only have a few big cloud providers, and they can decide what kind of tools they accept, what kind of tools are able to work with the API, and because of that, we have certain third-party applications that are very good, that are having interoperability already. On the other hand side, we see massively increased attack surface. We just saw it. If the cloud is not working, we're all having a big problem, and this is the biggest problem in the cloud discussion. It's, of course, it's bringing advantages in terms of security, but it also is the big attack surface. And if there is an issue on the cloud, it's not only one company affected, but several. And in the end, we're having the sensitive data is theoretically in range of the big players. This is something you have to point out quite clearly. Of course, the cloud, the access of the data you're saving in the cloud is laying down to the laws of the country the cloud is processed on. So this is something you clearly have to take in mind. So if you need to focus on that your data, of course, only needs to be seen by 2 people in your company, and it's very, very, very sensitive data, then of course I would not point it out to the cloud. And please do not stick to any techniques that say we can encrypt your data that is going to the cloud. Any third-party companies coming up with some strange solutions I saw there. I think this is something that in the end will make kind of a little hole. You know, you have this cloud with a huge redundancy, and then you're relying on this one encryption solution. So in the end, next slide, please, and then I'm finished. In the end, the conclusion from an individual's perspective, so from the perspective of an individual company, the cloud wins in security. And I would also say, if you have a choice, do a kind of cloud migration, at least with some of your environments, because it brings you wins on security. But if you focus on the cloud migration from an overall scale, from an economy scale, it decreases the security ecosystem, and in terms of third-party applications, and it is a definite garant for upcoming future huge outages we will face on mid and long term. But in the end, it all lays down, if we do not understand the attacker's motivation and the techniques, we will continue inefficiently spending resources to secure infrastructures on places where they do not need to be secured, instead of protecting against the real threats. Yeah, thank you. This is it already. If you want to continue with the discussion, please reach out to me. Thank you.